Welcome to the bright side of the moon, a journey of magic and wonder, and most of all, beauty. Hello. Sorry I'm late. Just checking that my mic's on. Yes. Okay. I hope you're all well. Here's another week. I am just going to move over to... Hi, Becky. Nice to see you. We got Isabel. Hi, and Erica. Wonderful. What am I doing? Okay. So, I've been pondering a few things this week. Because we've been talking about the visible and the invisible aspects of life, and I know many of us have pondered this positive thinking and negativity and things like that. Well, I was listening to Sadhguru this week, and he gave such an amazing explanation of what we need to do about communicating with the invisible and bringing it into the visible side. And for me, it's to do with art, of creativity, and the art of living. So I will go into that in a few minutes. Let me just check the messages. Hi, Verpy. Hi, Myra. Juliet. Sorry I was late, everyone. Hi, Richard. Kimberly. Jean. The gang is building. Yvonne, hi. So, the title for today is Mindfulness. And it's really interesting how the West, particularly, how they define mind. And some people say, oh, I'm only being human. And you know what that's doing? It's building up a thought form of limitation instead of the possibilities that all people have by being human. So what Sadhguru was talking about was that how the mind, the definition of the mind, is greater than what the West uses it for. In India, they actually have 16 different dimensions of the mind. And he only talked about 4, which I think, hi Stephen, 4 were really, really helpful. So if you take the first one, he talks about the intellect. Now the basic purpose of the intellect is to keep you safe in survival mode. So the second one is your identity. So a lot of your life you will be going through different passages, building up your identity of who am I? You can be an American, you can be a British citizen, you can be French, you could be what your mom and dad said was important, Christian, Muslim, Japanese, and you could be identified with a lot of the thoughts and cultural belief systems. So what's interesting is that in building your identity, you're building memories, and then your life gives you memories, and then there are inherited memories of your family, of your culture, of your karma, if you believe in such things, past lives. And all the time you spend on the internet, you're building data. When you're in school, you're building information. Your mind is just so full of all this data. We're not being told about the true purpose of being here. And that's actually to do with the 4th aspect of the mind, which they call chitta, and you might call it your intuition, the higher spirit realms, you might call it God, but that has no definitions. And the intellect is always trying to protect you, as we said, put you in survival mode. So it's analyzing everything to make sure you're okay, and that it's keeping you on the right track of what you think is your identity and what your memories are telling you. What I found really interesting is what he was saying is that how to get into the other realm of your creativity, which I refer to as the invisible realms, that some of the lessons on my art class takes you to have an experience of that. Your intellect cannot describe it, because the intellect is like a knife. It cuts things, it differentiates things, it puts things into folders. And that realm, that invisible realm, has no folders. It's life. And everything's connected to that energy, that vibration. So the point, particularly if you're on a creative path or you want to be involved, committed more to the art of living, your task will be to make an identity that is unlimited, if possible. So study things. Dare to step outside of your box in your mind, because that's how you access that place. Now, if we talk about positive and negative thinking, I don't know about you, but there are times that no matter how much positive images that I put in my brain to counteract the negative ones can come back, because maybe I built my identity to be more at home with negativity. When it's really going loopy through your mind, there's a simple thing that you can do, and that's to watch your breathing. I'm sure you've heard this before. Pay attention to your breathing. Now, the reason why that works is because it distracts your mind from doing all that thinking, all that worrying, all those what should I do, what I didn't do, and all that. The breathing takes you into, well, let's put it this way. If you're really worrying, your breath is a bit hyper on many occasions. So if you do this soft breath, you're hoodwinking. You're hoodwinking that aspect of your mind that wants to keep you panicking, because it's like, oh my God, we got to survive. So it's been a really great week of having a new realization of how to deal with this. So positive thinking is positive imagery is a good thing, but take it into a bigger process of who you are. Think about, what is it that you dream about, or what is that flower really like? What is the vibration of the wind? Spend more time doing that, being with the life force. And you'll start building a new identity. And when that happens, if you spend more time listening to the silence of your inner mind, it's not your mind really, it's your creativity, all those negative thoughts immediately start drifting off, because you're calm. Your intellect doesn't say, oh my God, it's in survival mode, I have to help, I have to protect it. It has no idea of what you really need, honestly. It's trying, but we're so identified with it. It's our culture that keeps us on the spin so we can buy more and we can take more pills and, I don't know, do everything but be calm. So I think that's a good beginning, and I am going to look at your messages. Let's see what's happening. If you have any questions about what I just said, ask me. Verpi wants to know, why is it usually women are more into spiritual things? Mostly men say they don't believe in anything beyond. Well, I think that's a program that the men got a long time ago, that they had to be on the physical plane protecting us while we had children. And it's developed even more as history went on, to where they wanted to have power. And women have an easier connection to those things because we can make babies. We have a creative force inside. And but in order to have creative force, it gave us the ability to be intuitive and touch that other aspect. And the true purpose of the masculine is to create an environment of safety and protection. And it's all gotten warped out. Mrs. Tweedy, my Sufi teacher, gave different meditation practices to the men than the women. When I was in Hawaii, I was reading this one book, and I forget the title of it, but the story of it was, well, the whole book was about people sharing, particularly women, their experiences on their spiritual path. And one woman happened to be a devotee of Mrs. Tweedy. So, and they had children. And they both were very inspired to be trained by Mrs. Tweedy. So one day they're going there, and she had a little side room that would give private instruction. So she took the man, the husband, the father, into the side room and gave him some exercises and meditation practices and things. And then she is taken in, the wife, the mom, and Mrs. Tweedy says, just go home and be a mom. She went, what? Why? She says, because you'll learn so much by working with the beings you gave birth to. Women need to have that practical base to hold their psychic energy on the planet. So she went home, did the dishes, did the washing, did the grocery shopping and everything, and tried not to be envious of her husband, who could meditate and have practices of a certain type. So I did a sculpture for an award in LA years ago to a women's group in Verdigio, something like that. Anyway, I was talking to some of the women then, and they were like, oh, those men, oh my God, they're just on and on and on in the typical stuff. And I said, do you realize you have a masculine temperament inside you too, not just a feminine one? And listen, and the masculine quality is protection, expression, and being on the planet. It looks to me like your masculine is holding a lot of anger. And how are you going to bring the feminine quality that needs, the world needs the feminine quality of caring and creativity and the bridge to the spirit, undeniably, but it isn't that it needs to dominate, it needs to be balanced, because right now most of the world is using their masculine quality to create the world that we're living in, that is not very humanitarian focused as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I started to think, well, there, as Mrs. Tweedy works with men differently, I would as well, because they're getting demasculated and they're frustrated, actually. And the women need to work very much about dealing with their anger, their hurt, their suppressed, hang on a minute, let me turn this off. How they've been possessed, misused, all that stuff is archetypically, karmically in our blood. And we have to work on our inner self before we can actually be guardians of the feminine quality that will come in and bring balance, which will mean holding the masculine as well in understanding. And yes, they've been allowed to be dominating of us, without a doubt. But we also have played victim. So humanity's got quite a bit of work. What I love is what we truly are, what our potential is, what life is. It's just wonderful. And I'm going to expand my identity more forever so that I can have access, so that crazy mind stuff doesn't dominate me, because the more it dominates you, you're creating a venom, you're creating a poison in a way into your system. If you have access to that unlimited invisible realm, that venom doesn't exist anymore. So, I love this subject, so ask me more questions. Becky, most men just like to stick to the norm, and anything out of their scope they banish. Yeah. Erica says, I think some of it has to do with the generational stigma that anything emotional is girly. Spiritualism is very full of emotion, at least for me, and I think that's why there are so many more women interested in those kinds of things than men. Well, certainly, I know British men, by and large, have been encouraged to not show their feelings. And there was a time when the invisible realms were considered black magic. And maybe it was misused, but there is a wonderful potential of it. I think people are understanding consciousness differently. And particularly, I think it's different than spiritualism. Spiritualism can still have boxes. Consciousness has no definition. It holds all people, rejoices in the diversity of what life is. But Becky says that her box is more like Pandora's. Well, may the goodness radiate. So Verpi says her comment wasn't meant to be a compliment about men. I mean, I don't even know if I believe in anything. Just wanted to know Ginger's opinion about this difference, why usually women are more into the spiritual stuff. Well, I hope I answered it, Verpi. We can always go deeper. Hi, Andy. Yes, there are some exceptions. Thank goodness, because if you have a man that has a connection to his heart, that is a very special being, I have to say. And the same for the women. If you have a woman that has lots of heart and yet knows how to use her will for the best of humanity, they'd probably make a really good couple. Thank you, Andy. So happy you're here. Becky says she's met a few men who are into spirituality. You know, the Lily, the healer I worked with for many years, she used to say, she was about 85 at the time, I am so tired of that word spirituality. She says, so far as I'm concerned, it's about being human. And we haven't lived the depth of what we are. And I've thought about that for many years. And the more that I work with the invisible coming into the visible aspects, creating paintings, forms, thoughts that are bringing in that energy, the more I sort of understand what she means. And the less that I use that word in a way. I think consciousness fits my vocabulary at the moment more. Because we have to come into the oneness as opposed to separating out. You're not very spiritual. You're too serious. You're narrow-minded. There are all those dimensions that we are. I have to use this. Hang on a minute. And if you think about what I was saying earlier about the intellect and the identity and the memories that are creating an image of what we are, that sort of the intellect is separating us out. There's a really good example about this. If your identity is all wrapped up in data, lots of thoughts of all kinds, and the intellect is keeping you on survival mode, it's a bit like if you had a car and you were trying to drive it on one wheel. So that to be that balanced human being between the invisible and the visible, between having the survival mode dedicated to bringing the highest of what we can be on the planet, then you'd have a four-wheel car. Burpee says that she likes pure nightmares more than the everyday stressing nightmares. I always have those, and some come from the past things. But sometimes I have lovely dreams, and mostly dreams with weird details. That's interesting. I was helping to write a paper on conscious sleeping many, many years ago. And what was interesting that came out in that is that when you're sleeping, you're actually more yourself. And when you wake up, if you're not conscious about things, you will be, as we said, working on survival mode and very much identified with all kinds of fears and worries and, I don't know, just lots of superficial stuff. So really we're here to contact that invisible realm. At least that's what I've experienced. That's when the happiness and the joy and the bliss starts coming into your life. And as I said last week, when I wake up, I smile. First thing, I smile. It's like, and then I say I'm grateful. But the smile is that it's like, wow, I'm still alive. Wow, the sun came up again. And of course, wow, it was really foggy and grey today. But I smile, and the more I smile, I go around the house. A little smile jumps out of my heart. Of course, there are times that it isn't smiling, and that's my work I have to do inwardly on that day. So Becky was saying, they say if your third eye has been opened, you're more visually awakened. Yeah, there are a lot of belief systems that say that. And it does happen. Always the test will be is how do you use what you're seeing in your daily life? We're meant to be here. It's how do you use it? Verbi. I used to be much more spiritual when I was younger, to be honest. I've read every book about the subject. I've had different phases. Nowadays, I'm just more connected with music, really. That's great. We all go through cycles. And I know that now that I'm the age that I am, I find music and painting and going for walks, hugging the tree, feeling the wind is what I prefer to do. And of course I'd love to come and talk to you guys. Let's see, Richard. I have 4 daughters and my wife. My masculinity has taken a hit over the years, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Why has it taken a hit, Richard? I remember when I came over with David, the first few years, I was the only woman in the house. Matthew Gilmour. Beep, beep, boop, boop, must not show emotion. No. That's very, very British, I have to say, Matthew Gilmour. Anyway, when I first came over, it was quite an interesting experience to be with lots of men asking for tea and cooking and doing all that programmed woman stuff, which at the time I was quite happy about, until I started to feel like I was a servant. Then it started to change. They had to start doing the dishes and lots of other things, making me tea, actually. Yeah. Cycles in cycles. Matthew, by the way, I totally forgot I had to center our new video, so I'll have to work on that for next week. But thank you for helping. So, apparently, they've had a lot of wind and storms in Sacramento. It's funny. I always think California is this haven of warmth, but obviously not. Yes, Becky, I hope they do give us... Huh! Burpee. She's replying to Matthew, men are robots. You guys are too much. Matthew, take me to your leader. Sounds like a Doctor Who show. John Davies, he always shows his emotions. Yeah, I know, Jean. You know, Matthew, you were just getting into that more Japanese thing. I hope you do it again, because it really was, well, the whole beginning was very special, his live. And Verpy says she doesn't have a leader. I think you two are going at each other. Hi, Angelo. Janie, are you actually from Chichester? Anyway, she says, do you think your art lessons would help me to expand my mind more and tap into my creativity? I feel I shut down during some things that happened in the past and find it hard to access my imagination. Certainly, it will. There are things that you have to do, and the first lesson is complimentary, so you can try it out. But even in the first lesson, it will take you into a place in order to do this basic painting of the 7 tones from dark to light. In order to do that, to look and see the different tone differences, you will start to open up that doorway to do it. And then each lesson after that will take you more and more. It's a slow process, but it's subtle, and it's an experience as opposed to lessons, so to speak. Though there are some, contemplating what to do. Got this house so that I could have lessons for people and give a live experience, and that isn't happening right now. So contemplating, how do I take this online? How do I give an experience? It's was a challenge, and I have to say that in some ways there's some theory in there explaining it, which if you were here in my studio, my classroom, these things would come in between what I would be having you do, what I was taken through. But we have to adapt, and I've had some good results with some of the students of how it's enhanced their creativity. The mind can't explain it because it's a subjective area, and then but you have to know how to touch that place to then bring it back down into the form or the painting that you're creating, or even your dinner. Matthew's being very silly tonight. I hope you've all seen it. He said he's pretty sure I should always be who I think I should be, and sometimes you just gotta throw the rattle out of the pram, I'm sure. And you did. But it's a sign of you discovering who you are, and little by little you are becoming quite the special person in my life. So keep your sense of humor, boy. Angela. Hi, Angela. Hello, Shadrika. Where are you from? So, hopefully your leader is yourself, your higher self. It's always a test. Angela's telling us about a particular type of training called ancestral generational conditional awareness healing, male and female. Sounds good to me. The thing about a lot of this is that it's a new phase for humanity. Juliet. A man who can cry a little bit, not sobbing everywhere constantly, I find attractive. Conversely, a lot of men I know are attracted to strong women. That thought just popped into my brain. Yeah, well, we're all trying to find a balance outside of ourselves. Be interesting who we'd wind up with if we found the balance inside ourselves. That's what, I don't know if I'll ever find that, but that's what I would like at this stage of my life. And we could explore the inner realms as well as the outer realms together. Up to now, I'm finding it in teleprograms. Dare I say. There. Mind you, they probably is just old Hollywood, you know. But I like it in my... There's a tribe in South America that work a lot about dreams, and they believe that dream is the true aspect of who you are. And there's there was an example that a little boy, when you wake up, you share your dreams, and the little boy is going, "Oh God, a lion was coming after me." So the father says, "Well, you have to face the lion." And eventually the boy faced the lion. I had a similar experience with Alice, one of my children, who during the time we lived in Monksbridge while Dave was out on tax exile was having terrible nightmares. She would be running around in the night screaming, and I'd go out to see if I could hug her, whether she didn't even know I was standing there. And what it turned out to be was that she had a monster that was chasing her all the time. And every night this would go on, and so I sought counsel with a woman, Margaret, that worked with Mrs. Tweedy, who was a child psychologist actually, and she said, tell her to talk to her, make a friend with the monster. And if the monster didn't want her friendship, just say, I would like you to talk to my mom about this. She wants to talk to you. Well, one morning Alice got up and said, Mom, I did it. He's my friend now. I found that really interesting. And the other aspect of this tribe was that they could have dream lovers. So the daily life would be working in the fields and taking care of the children and hunting and whatever the male and female had to do together, but they didn't have time to be lovers. So you'd have a dream lover and you'd feel quite happy about that, and therefore they found balance in their marriage. So ponder that. Oh, Verpi. She says that she has a good contact with her inner child, but my inner adult is lost. Well, you're still building. Try to write down a few things that you would like to do as an adult. I mean, I'm sure you do a lot of things that you love. So build your identity, like we were talking about it earlier. Jean. She says the servant cycle isn't broken and the resentment cycle follows. Well, were you here when I was talking about how Mrs. Tweedy told the women to go back home and work with that? Because what you're going to be working on is the historical aspect too. There was a time in one of the group meditations with Mrs. Tweedy that I burst out in tears because I suddenly contacted that deep wound of not being loved and understood. But it was historic. It was back in previous lifetimes. It was one of my first aha, there are previous lifetimes. And there's a lot of that, the wounded feminine. But that wounded feminine goes into the masculine because generally they have not been allowed to find the balance between their feminine and their masculine, just as we're not allowed to find the positive masculine in ourselves. Well, Verpi, you'll know which is the way you should go, because if you go the wrong way, you'll probably bump your head on the wall. But don't blame yourself if that happens. You say, that's not what I should be doing. So you're developing your inner listening that really believes in the best that you can be. So back, interesting what everyone's sharing tonight. Becky's saying, now after 24 years of marriage and being a mom, I find myself in limbo. Can't go back to being me as a teenager before the marriage. What about a wise elder? Take the information of the journey you had with your children and then explore who you are on top of that as a foundational aspect of how you loved and cared, and now it's like, be adventuresome and stop saying that you're lost. You're beginning in a way, discovering, and goodness gracious, girl, there's a lot out there in you, I should say, to discover. And it can be so easy and simple at first. You don't even have to know about it. That's your intellect telling you you have to define it, you have to know. You don't need to know on the superficial, worldly level. Just be your heart. Create something. Or just think or read, or you don't have to be anything other than who you are. So expand your identity folder and keep me posted. I want to know. Excuse me. Juliet says, art is definitely a fabulous outlet, and the other thing I've found is that it makes me brave. I always get a bit scared of a new technique or color palette, but once I take a breath, dive in and start creating, I feel so much better about myself. How wonderful. And it's good confidence booster and a road of discovery for me. Definitely good therapy. Yep, I'm very happy to know and observe how you're expanding the way that you are. It's wonderful. Yes, Angela, Juliet's art is really, really growing and expanding and giving so much to us. Burpee, thank you for your wise words as usual, Ginger. I felt more like joking tonight. Good. Been too serious too long. I had that feeling listening to some of your comments on Matt's lives. So keep it up. Lots of smiles. Becky saying, I am a wise elder, but in certain ways I dread people always saying to me, yes, you're right. Well, maybe you are right. The world needs wise elders. Because they're flipping about, because where's the guidance? Where's the wonderful, radiant person that walks with their head high in loving life? They need to see that. And one day I'd like to have tea with you, Becky. Angela started painting again at 53 after a divorce and raising 5 children. Well done. More or less single-handedly, I know the feeling. Loving it, feel like a teenager again, a wiser one. Fantastic. So happy to hear that. Becky, can I disagree with you? She says, innocence of teenage years can never be regained. I think life is innocence. I think your heart is innocence. But we also have to progress and become wiser. You'll get experiences and challenges on life that you'll ripen and open. Don't know if I'd want to be a teenager again. I feel like I'm really excited about life and the future. Don't know how long I'm going to be here, but right now I feel like it could be forever. So, yeah. Do you know it's 1 minute from 8 o'clock? Gosh. Yeah. Did a lot of chatting tonight. I'm so happy that you could share what you were sharing. And sorry I was late, so maybe we'll run over a bit. So I just want to let you know that the all my art prints and things are available on artpal.com if you want some. And there's my book, of course, and there are the excerpts, live video excerpts of some of the chapters, which have extra pictures, and me reading the chapters, and me talking about what I learned in each of those phases. It's quite an interesting retrospective. But you know, what came to me this week, thinking about this expanded identity idea, I am very grateful that I can still love the people I loved, including David, including a lot of other people in my life. And I'm not going to let go of that. I'm not going to cling to it. But I love love. And I'm not going to go down with anxiety and stuff. It was difficult to accept it. But I'm not going to not be happy about the memories. Because if, you know, so many people with divorce, they just close it down, smash the life that went before. And that's just closing down their access to the higher self. And I am not going to do that. And it means I get to be happy about my memories. And I can laugh about them and I can have a tear about them. But that's my life. I love my life. And I love my children. And honestly, the best of Dave Gilmour I love. In life, God just won, or whatever, our lives meant to have to go in another direction, and I have to paint. So there you are. Hi, Veronica. Becky, I don't know if the guys are scared away. Hope not. I hope they're listening. And then we'll see how the seed grows. And I think the masculine person is a very special person. Yeah. And Jaina, I have met Polly many times, but not in recent history because we've gone different ways. And COVID certainly doesn't make those things possible. So, I have to say, Juliet says, love is a positive and beautiful thing, and I love you that you say that about love. It's brought a tear to my eye in a good way. Good. Lovely live. Thank you, Ginger. We'll try and start an art lesson this week. Yay! Good. The thing about the art lessons, Janie, is that I really hope that you will share with me your pictures, your struggle, your insights as you do the first lesson, well, all the lessons if you choose to take them on. And at the end there's a private Zoom teaching lesson we'll do together. So please share it with me and we'll communicate every day if that's what we have to do. So I want to say so long. Have a lovely evening and a lovely week. And I will speak to you next week. And so long. Here we go. I have to do my bits now. Night night.